At an emergency meeting, the HOA president shouted angrily. She called for a teenage girl to face execution. The death penalty, electric chair, all because of Halloween decorations. The president was unaware of the girl's father's identity. The girl's future looked grim. What occurs when authority confronts justice? Before viewing the complete story, please share which country you're watching from in the comments. Remember to subscribe for more incredible stories. I am Robert Harrison, working as a federal judge at a major downtown courthouse. However, in my residential area, this remained unknown. I was simply Bob, the reserved man, living on Maple Street with my daughter Emma. I maintained privacy about my profession to keep my family secure and maintain normalcy. Everything shifted on one October day. Emma, my daughter, was 16 years old. She possessed creativity, artistic talent, and cherished Halloween above all else. That particular year, she chose to create the most spectacular Halloween decorations for our front lawn. For weeks, she dedicated herself to this project. Emma constructed artificial tombstones using wood and painted them gray. She fashioned skeleton hands that emerged from the earth. She wound purple lights around our large oak tree. The entire display resembled a miniature, eerie graveyard, though in an entertaining, innocent manner. Not frightening in a negative sense, just in a Halloween spirit. I stepped outside to observe her creation. She stood back, admiring everything with satisfaction. "Dad, see how amazing this appears," Emma exclaimed. "Do you believe I might win the neighborhood decorating competition?" I smiled at her. "It appears fantastic, sweetheart. This shows real creativity. You put so much effort into this." Emma glowed with happiness. She had consistently been a wonderful child, academically excellent and considerate to others. She enjoyed creative endeavors. This represented exactly the type of activity she loved pursuing. That moment brought Karen Walsh's appearance. Karen served as the HOA president. HOA represents Homeowners Association. Karen was 52 years old, and frankly represented the person everyone in our neighborhood disliked. She moved around as though she possessed every residence. She criticized everything. If your lawn exceeded 1 inch in height, she criticized. If your vehicle was an inappropriate color, she criticized. She complicated everyone's existence with her authority complexes and hostile behavior. She approached our lawn as if she had discovered evidence of wrongdoing. "What is this?" Karen yelled, gesturing at Emma's decorations as if they were something horrible. "Halloween decorations, Mrs. Walsh," Emma responded courteously. She maintained respect, even when others acted rudely. "I've spent the entire week working on them. I'm thrilled about them." Karen's expression became flushed. "This is revolting. This is unsuitable. These decorations disrupt the tranquility. They're reducing our property's worth. This represents a family neighborhood, not a graveyard." I descended from the porch. "Karen, they're simply Halloween decorations." Emma invested considerable time creating them. She demonstrates great creativity. "I don't care about her time investment," Karen stated coldly. "This resembles an actual graveyard. It's disturbing and inappropriate." "Emma, don't argue with me. I'm immediately reporting this to the HOA board." Emma appeared wounded and bewildered. She had committed no wrongdoing. She was merely enjoying herself and expressing creativity. 3 days later, Karen organized an emergency HOA meeting. She distributed messages to every household in the neighborhood, stating that there existed a serious community safety issue requiring immediate attention. The meeting occurred at the community center. Upon my arrival, the room was filled with puzzled neighbors. They were clueless about why they were present. Karen positioned herself at the room's front, like a courtroom prosecutor. "Ladies and gentlemen," she started dramatically, "we face the most serious danger our community has ever encountered. One family has transformed their property into a display of death and violence." People glanced at each other, confused. Karen pressed a remote, and images of Emma's Halloween decorations displayed on the large screen behind her. These photographs reveal what the Harrison family has accomplished, Karen declared, pointing at the screen. Artificial tombstones, skeleton hands, death symbols, and violence. This isn't merely inappropriate. It represents danger. This constitutes a mental health emergency. This girl clearly shows disturbance and poses danger. Mrs. Johnson, an elderly neighbor living nearby, raised her hand. Karen, those are simply Halloween decorations. My grandchildren adore them. They consider them entertaining and creative. Entertainment. Karen's voice became extremely high and loud. These aren't entertaining. These represent murder and death symbols. This young girl clearly suffers from mental illness. Only a sick, twisted mind would produce violent imagery like this. The room became very quiet. I stood up. Karen, my daughter, created these decorations as innocent Halloween entertainment. Nothing dangerous or inappropriate exists about them. Halloween is meant to be spooky. That's the entire purpose. Your daughter obviously shows mental disturbance, Karen said with a cold laugh. Only a sick mind would produce such violent images. I felt my anger building, but remained calm. I had encountered people like Karen in my courtroom numerous times before. You've overstepped boundaries, Karen, I said, maintaining a quiet and controlled voice. I haven't even begun overstepping boundaries, she replied with a cruel smile. Karen clicked on the following slide. This one displayed a close-up photograph of one of Emma's fake tombstones. Examine this evidence, Karen announced loudly. This tombstone contains the inscription RIP, Mr. Walsh, carved into it. This represents a death threat against my family. The room gasped. I examined the photograph and comprehended what had occurred. Emma had placed random amusing names on her fake tombstones for humor. She intended nothing harmful. She simply thought it would be amusing to have silly names like Mr. Walsh on fake tombstones in a pretend graveyard. Karen's husband, Frank, rose from the back. Karen, that's not even my actual name there. It simply states, Mr. Walsh. It's obviously just a Halloween decoration. Why are you creating such a major issue about this? Sit down, Frank, Karen snapped at her own husband. Then she turned back to the crowd. This represents a death threat against my family, Karen proclaimed. This disturbed teenager threatens to murder us. She placed our name on a tombstone. She plans to kill us. That's absurd, I said, standing up, and placed random names on fake tombstones. It's not a threat. It's not a plan. It represents just a Halloween decoration. Karen's eyes began shining with something resembling excitement or pleasure. This was her desire. She wanted drama and chaos. This represents premeditated murder, Karen shouted. Your daughter plans to kill people in this neighborhood. She plans to murder my husband. She represents a dangerous criminal. Emma, who had been sitting quietly beside me, began to cry. I didn't intend anything harmful. I simply thought it would be amusing to have funny names for a pretend graveyard. I would never harm anyone. I'm just a girl who enjoys Halloween. You think murder is amusing? Karen pointed at my crying daughter, as if identifying a criminal. You find death entertaining. That's sufficient, Karen, I said, my voice becoming firmer. Stop attacking my daughter immediately. Your daughter represents a dangerous criminal, Karen declared. She makes death threats against neighbors. She plans violence. When this psychotic child murders someone in their sleep, don't come to me crying. I warned everyone. A neighbor named Mr. Rodriguez stood up. Karen, you're being absurd. It's simply a Halloween decoration created by a teenage girl. You're acting irrationally. Karen turned on him. When this psychotic child murders someone in their sleep, don't come crying to me. I attempted to warn all of you. She clicked to her final slide. This showed a photograph of Emma smiling beside her decorations. Observe her expression, Karen said, pointing at my smiling daughter. Look at that evil smile. This shows the face of a cold-blooded killer. This represents a psychopath who enjoys contemplating murdering people. Emma was sobbing now. I placed my arm around her for protection and comfort. This community faces immediate danger, Karen continued, speaking louder and more intensely. Emma Harrison clearly represents a psychopath. She fantasizes about murder and death. Her decorations prove she plans to kill people. She represents a terrorist. Karen's voice became very loud and sounded increasingly unhinged. Emma Harrison should face immediate arrest. She should face charges for making terrorist threats. She should face prosecution to the fullest extent of the law. She should receive a death sentence. She should burn in the electric chair. The room fell completely silent. Even Karen's supporters, those who typically agreed with her, appeared shocked and disturbed. They couldn't believe she was saying this about a 16-year-old girl. Death sentence. Mrs. Peterson gasped. Karen, she's merely a child. She's 16 years old. She represents a dangerous criminal, Karen insisted. When someone makes death threats and plans violence, only one appropriate punishment exists. The electric chair. She should die for terrorizing this community. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. This woman seriously demanded that my 16-year-old daughter face execution for creating Halloween decorations. You want my daughter sentenced to death? I asked quietly, my voice controlled, yet dangerous. Yes, Karen declared triumphantly. Emma Harrison should face execution for terrorizing this community. She should burn in the electric chair for her crimes. Karen called for a formal HOA vote. She wanted everyone to vote on whether to report Emma to the police and demand criminal charges. All in favor of reporting Emma Harrison for making terrorist death threats. Raise your hands, Karen announced. To my complete shock, approximately half the room raised their hands. These were people who had known Emma since she was a small child. They had watched her mature. They knew her, yet they were voting to have her arrested regardless. I felt shocked and angry beyond description. Motion passed. Karen declared with satisfaction. I will contact the police tomorrow to report Emma Harrison as a dangerous threat to this community. Emma was crying so intensely that she could barely breathe. Dad, I didn't do anything wrong. I just wanted to create beautiful Halloween decorations. I didn't threaten anyone. I didn't say anything mean. I know, sweetheart, I said, holding her close. Don't worry, this isn't finished. Karen heard me say this. You're correct, Mr. Harrison. This isn't finished. Your daughter will pay for threatening this community. She will learn that actions have consequences. Yes, Karen, I said, looking directly at her. Actions do have consequences, and you're about to learn that lesson yourself. Karen laughed coldly. Are you threatening me now? Like father, like daughter. Your entire family shows violence and danger. I'm not threatening you, Karen, I said quietly. I'm making you a promise. You just made the greatest mistake of your life. What will you do? Karen asked mockingly. Complain to the HOA? I am the HOA. I smiled at her. Karen, you have no understanding of who you're dealing with. The following morning, Karen contacted the police. When Officer Martinez arrived, she was waiting for him at our house. Officer, I need to report a terrorist threat made by a dangerous teenager in our neighborhood, Karen told him. What type of terrorist threat? Officer Martinez asked, retrieving his notepad to record information. Emma Harrison has created death threats against multiple residents, Karen said. She made fake tombstones with our names on them. She clearly plans violence. She poses a danger to this community. Officer Martinez looked confused. Ma'am, are you referring to Halloween decorations? These aren't decorations, Karen insisted. They represent death threats. This girl shows mental disturbance and plans to murder people. Officer Martinez walked over to examine Emma's decorations in our front yard. The fake tombstones remained there, along with the skeleton hands and purple lights. Ma'am, these appear to be standard Halloween decorations, Officer Martinez said. I don't observe any threats here. This looks like something a creative teenager would make. Look closer, Karen demanded. There's a tombstone with Mr. Walsh on it that represents a death threat against my husband. Officer Martinez examined the fake tombstone carefully. This appears to be a decoration for a pretend graveyard. It's not a credible threat. It's not a real threat. Not credible. Karen's voice became very high and loud again. Officer, this girl needs to be arrested and charges for making terrorist threats. She should face prosecution to the fullest extent of the law. She should go to prison. Ma'am, creating Halloween decorations isn't a crime, Officer Martinez said, shaking his head. It's not illegal. If you feel threatened, you can file a civil complaint, but this isn't a criminal matter. This isn't something I can arrest someone for. Karen's face turned bright red with rage. Fine. If local police won't perform their job, I'll go to the FBI. I'll go to the district attorney. I'll ensure this dangerous criminal receives the death penalty she deserves. What Karen didn't know was very significant. I served as a federal district judge in the same courthouse where she planned to file her complaints. I worked in the federal court system. That means I possessed authority over federal cases. The following Monday morning, I sat in my office at the courthouse. My office is called Chambers. My assistant, Jennifer, knocked on my door. Judge Harrison, there's a woman here who says she needs to file an emergency petition, Jennifer said. She claims there's a terrorist in her neighborhood who needs immediate arrest. Send her in, I said, although I had a feeling I already knew her identity. Karen Walsh walked into my office, wearing her most expensive clothing and carrying a thick folder full of documents. She looked around my office with its law books, certificates, and American flag. But she didn't recognize me in my black judge's robes. Your Honor, she began formally. I am Karen Walsh, president of the Pine Valley Estates HOA. I'm here to report a dangerous criminal who terrorizes our community. Please have a seat and tell me about this situation, I said, keeping my voice neutral and professional. Karen sat down and opened her folder. She spread papers and photographs across my desk. There's a teenage girl in our neighborhood named Emma Harrison who has made terrorist threats against multiple residents, Karen said. She has created death symbols and clearly plans violence. She showed me photographs of Emma's Halloween decorations. As you can observe, Your Honor, she has created a scene of death and violence in her front yard. This clearly represents the work of a disturbed mind planning criminal acts. She needs immediate arrest. I examined the photographs carefully. These appear to be Halloween decorations. That's what everyone keeps saying, Karen said in frustration. But they aren't decorations. They represent threats. This girl placed my husband's name on a tombstone. She plans to murder him. She plans to kill people. Have you contacted local police about this? I asked. Yes, but they refused to perform their job, Karen said angrily. They said Halloween decorations aren't crimes. But this isn't decoration. This represents terrorism. This represents a death threat. Karen leaned forward intensely. Your Honor, I'm requesting that you issue an immediate warrant for Emma Harrison's arrest. She should face charges for making terrorist threats, disturbing the peace, and planning violence. She should face severe punishment. What punishment do you think would be appropriate? I asked, wanting to see how far she would go. Karen's eyes lit up with cruel satisfaction. This was what she had wanted to say all along. Your Honor, when someone terrorizes an entire community and makes death threats, only one appropriate punishment exists, Karen declared. The death penalty. Emma Harrison should face execution for her crimes. She should receive a sentence to die in the electric chair. She should burn. I sat back in my chair, completely stunned by how much hatred this woman harbored toward my daughter. How could anyone demand that a 16-year-old girl face execution for making Halloween decorations? You want a 16-year-old girl executed for putting up Halloween decorations? I asked. She's not putting up decorations, Karen insisted. She's making death threats. And yes, I want her executed. People who terrorize communities and threaten violence deserve death. This girl represents a psychopath who enjoys thinking about killing people. Karen pulled out more photographs and showed them to me. Look at her face in these pictures. Karen said, pointing. She's smiling beside symbols of death. This clearly shows a psychopath who enjoys the idea of killing people. Mrs. Walsh, do you have children? I asked her. Yes, I have 2 adult sons, she said. But they were raised properly and never made death threats against neighbors. How would you feel if someone demanded that your sons face execution for something they did as teenagers? I asked. Karen's face hardened. If my sons had terrorized the community and made death threats, they would deserve whatever punishment they received. The law is the law. The law is indeed the law, I agreed. And you're about to learn exactly what that means. I stood up slowly. Mrs. Walsh, before I make any decisions about your petition, I need to ask you something very important. Do you know who Emma Harrison's father is? Karen looked confused. Some government worker named Bob Harrison. Why does that matter? It matters very much, I said. You see, Mrs. Walsh, Emma Harrison is my daughter. Karen's face went completely white. Her mouth opened and closed like a fish. What? She whispered. I am Judge Robert Harrison, I said. Emma is my 16-year-old daughter, and you just spent the last 20 minutes demanding that I sentence my own child to death. Karen started shaking. That's impossible. You're a federal judge. Bob Harrison works for the government. I am a federal judge, and I do work for the government, I said. You've been living across the street from a federal judge for 3 years without knowing it. Karen turned completely pale. But your daughter made death threats. My daughter made Halloween decorations, I said firmly. You, on the other hand, just committed several serious federal crimes in my courtroom. What crimes? Karen whispered. Filing false reports with federal authorities, making false accusations under oath, wasting federal resources, and most seriously attempting to use the federal court system to harass and intimidate a minor child. These represent serious federal crimes. Karen started shaking even more. I didn't know. I was just trying to protect the community. No, Mrs. Walsh, I said coldly. You were trying to destroy a 16-year-old girl's life because you disliked her Halloween decorations. You demanded that she face execution. I pressed the intercom button on my desk. Jennifer, please ask Federal Marshal Thompson to come to my chambers immediately. Yes, Your Honor. Jennifer's voice returned. Karen started panicking. Wait, I made a mistake. I didn't understand the situation. Please, I made an error. Oh, you understood perfectly, I said. You understood that you have power as the HOA president, and you decided to use that power to destroy a teenage girl's life. Federal Marshal Thompson entered my office. He was a large man, in a federal marshal uniform. You requested my presence, Your Honor? He asked. Yes, I said. I need you to arrest Mrs. Karen Walsh for filing false federal reports, perjury, and abuse of federal judicial resources. No, Karen jumped up. This is a misunderstanding. I was just trying to protect my community. Please, you have to believe me. Ma'am, please remain seated, Marshal Thompson ordered. Mrs. Walsh, you committed these crimes in my courtroom in front of me with full documentation, I continued. You filed false reports claiming my daughter was a terrorist. You demanded her execution under penalty of perjury. These represent federal crimes. Karen started crying. Please, I have a family. I made a mistake. Yes, you did make a mistake, I said. You made the mistake of attacking my daughter and demanding her death. Now you will face the consequences of that mistake. Marshal Thompson placed handcuffs on Karen's wrists. Karen Walsh, you are under arrest for filing false federal reports and perjury, he said. You have the right to remain silent. Anything you say can and will be used against you in a court of law, as they read her rights. Karen looked at me with terror and desperation in her eyes. Please, I'm sorry. I will drop all complaints against your daughter. I will retract everything, she begged. Too late, Mrs. Walsh, I said. You committed federal crimes. The case is out of your hands now. You will go to trial. You will face punishment. Within hours of Karen's arrest, the FBI opened a full investigation into her activities as HOA president. An FBI agent named Sarah Martinez came to my house that evening to interview Emma about Karen's harassment campaign. "Emma, I need you to tell me everything Mrs. Walsh said and did regarding your Halloween decorations," Agent Martinez said gently. Emma, still shaken by the whole experience, told the agent about Karen's accusations at the HOA meeting and the demand for her execution. "She really said you should get the electric chair?" Agent Martinez asked, taking notes. "Yes," Emma whispered. "She said I was a psychopath and a terrorist, and that I should face execution for making Halloween decorations. She said I should die in the electric chair. I didn't do anything wrong. I just wanted to make beautiful decorations." "Emma, you did absolutely nothing wrong," Agent Martinez said kindly. "Mrs. Walsh committed serious crimes by making false accusations and trying to misuse the federal court system." The FBI investigation quickly expanded. The agents discovered that Karen had a pattern of abuse and harassment as the HOA president. They found that she had filed false police reports against 7 different families over the past 2 years. She had falsely accused neighbors of drug dealing, child abuse, and property destruction. In each case, Karen had used her position as HOA president to intimidate people and attempt to force them to comply with her unreasonable demands. But demanding the execution of a 16-year-old girl was the most extreme and criminal thing she had ever done. Word of Karen's arrest spread quickly through legal circles and then to the media. The headline in the local newspaper read, "HOA President Arrested for Demanding Teen's Execution Over Halloween Decorations." The story went viral on social media. Within 24 hours, the story was being covered by major news networks. CNN reported, "HOA President Faces Federal Charges for Death Penalty Demand." Fox News reported, "Halloween Decorations Lead to Federal Arrest." NBC reported Judge's Daughter Targeted by Neighbor's Execution Demand. The internet was very critical of Karen. The hashtag electric chair Karen trended on Twitter for 3 days. People made thousands of videos mocking her on TikTok. Reddit threads had hundreds of thousands of comments calling her evil and cruel. Karen's mugshot became a meme representing the worst of HOA abuse and neighborhood bullies. The Pine Valley Estates community was shocked to learn that its HOA president was a federal criminal. An emergency HOA meeting was called to remove Karen from her position and elect new leadership. Mrs. Johnson, the elderly neighbor who had supported Emma from the beginning, was elected as the new HOA president. Karen Walsh abused her power and terrorized this community for years, Mrs. Johnson said in her acceptance speech. "We're going to create an HOA that actually serves the residents instead of attacking them." The new HOA board immediately passed a resolution apologizing to Emma and her family for Karen's actions. They voted to pay for Emma's therapy and counseling to help her recover from the trauma of being targeted for execution. Federal prosecutor David Chin was assigned to Karen's case. He called me to discuss the charges. "Judge Harrison, we're looking at multiple federal felonies," he said. Mrs. Walsh filed false reports with federal authorities, committed perjury in federal court, and attempted to abuse the judicial system for personal revenge. "What kind of sentence is she looking at?" I asked. "Each count carries up to 10 years in federal prison," Mr. Chin said. "We're looking at 30 years total if she's convicted on all charges. That's a very long time in prison." "She demanded my daughter face execution for making Halloween decorations," I said. "She deserves every year of that sentence." "I agree completely," Mr. Chin said. "We're also investigating her pattern of filing false police reports as HOA president. She may face additional charges for those crimes." Karen tried to hire expensive lawyers, but they all refused to take her case once they saw the evidence. The video of her demanding Emma's execution in federal court was impossible to defend. She was forced to accept a public defender who immediately advised her to plead guilty and hope for mercy. 3 months after her arrest, Karen appeared in federal court for her plea hearing. "Since she had committed crimes against my family, I had to recuse myself from sentencing her. That means I couldn't be her judge, because I wasn't fair and balanced about her case. Another judge, Judge Patricia Williams, would handle that part of the case. But I was present as the victim's father when Karen entered her guilty plea. She looked terrible. Her perfectly styled hair was now gray and messy. Her expensive clothes had been replaced with an orange jail uniform. Federal prison had not been kind to her. She looked aged and defeated. Double quotes, Mrs. Walsh, Judge Williams said, "How do you plead to the charge of filing false federal reports?" "Guilty, Your Honor," Karen whispered. "How do you plead to the charge of perjury in federal court?" "Guilty, Your Honor." "How do you plead to the charge of abuse of federal judicial resources?" "Guilty, Your Honor." Judge Williams looked at Karen with disgust. "Mrs. Walsh, you have pleaded guilty to demanding the execution of a 16-year-old girl for putting up Halloween decorations," Judge Williams said. "Do you understand the severity of your crimes?" "Yes, Your Honor. I'm sorry. I made a terrible mistake," Karen said. "This wasn't a mistake, Mrs. Walsh," Judge Williams said. "This was a deliberate campaign of harassment and abuse against a child. You used your position of power to terrorize a teenage girl and her family. You demanded her death. That's not a mistake. That's evil." Karen started crying. "I was just trying to protect the community. I thought she was dangerous." "You thought Halloween decorations were dangerous?" Judge Williams asked. "You thought a 16-year-old girl deserved to die for putting up fake tombstones and skeleton hands? How could you possibly think that was reasonable?" Karen had no answer. 2 weeks later, Karen appeared before Judge Williams for sentencing. Emma and I were both present to give victim impact statements. This means we could tell the judge how Karen's actions had hurt us. Emma spoke first. Her words were powerful and heartbreaking. "Mrs. Walsh tried to have me killed for making Halloween decorations," Emma said. "She called me a psychopath and a terrorist. She said I should die in the electric chair. I was just trying to have fun and make my house look spooky for court-treaters. I never hurt anyone or threatened anyone, but she wanted me dead anyway. I still have nightmares about it. I've had to go to therapy to deal with the trauma. I'm afraid to be myself now. I'm afraid to be creative because I'm worried someone else will attack me like she did." Then it was my turn. "Your Honor, Karen Walsh didn't just attack my daughter," I said. "She attacked the very concept of justice. She tried to use the federal court system as a weapon to destroy a child's life. She demanded execution for Halloween decorations. This level of hatred and abuse cannot be tolerated in a civilized society. My daughter did nothing wrong. She was just being a normal teenager. Karen Walsh tried to destroy her life out of pure cruelty and abuse of power." Karen's lawyer made a weak request for leniency. "Your Honor, Mrs. Walsh is sorry for her actions. She was confused and scared. She thought she was protecting her community. I ask for mercy and a chance for her to make amends." Judge Williams was not impressed or sympathetic. "Mrs. Walsh, you held a position of power in your community, and you abused that power in the most vicious way possible," Judge Williams said. "You targeted a child with lies and hatred. You demanded her death for no reason other than your own cruelty and abuse. You used false accusations and threats. I sentence you to 12 years in federal prison, followed by 5 years of supervised probation. You will also pay $500,000 in restitution to the Harrison family." Karen collapsed in her chair, sobbing hysterically. "Please, I have a family. I can't go to prison for 12 years. This is too much. You should have thought about your family before you tried to destroy someone else's," Judge Williams replied coldly. Karen was sent to a federal women's prison in Texas, far from her family and friends. Prison was especially hard for someone like Karen, who was used to having power and control over others. The other prisoners quickly learned that she had tried to have a teenager executed for Halloween decorations. This made her a target for harassment. She spent most of her 12-year sentence in protective custody, which means she was kept away from other prisoners for her own safety. She was mostly alone. Meanwhile, Emma thrived and grew stronger. She graduated from high school at the top of her class. She was accepted to Harvard Law School with a full scholarship to pay for her education. "I want to become a lawyer so I can protect other kids from people like Mrs. Walsh," Emma told me. Emma specialized in civil rights law and became one of the country's leading advocates for protecting children from abuse and harassment. She established the Emma Harrison Foundation, which provides legal help to kids who are bullied or targeted by adults in positions of power. The foundation has helped over 1,000 children since it was created. Emma married a wonderful man named Dr. James Martinez, and they had 3 beautiful children together. She'll never let Karen's hatred and cruelty define her life. Instead, she used the experience to help other children facing similar situations. After serving 10 years of her 12-year sentence, Karen was released on supervised probation. She was now 62 years old, with no family, no home, no money, and no future. Her criminal record made it impossible to find decent employment. She was forced to live in a halfway house and work minimum wage jobs to survive. The internet never forgot what she had done. Videos of her demanding Emma's execution were still shared and viewed millions of times. Every potential employer and landlord could easily find this information with a simple Google search. Karen had become a symbol of everything wrong with HOA abuse and neighborhood harassment. 5 years after Karen's release from prison, I encountered her at a grocery store. She looked terrible, aged, broken, and defeated. She was wearing cheap clothes and looked like she hadn't slept well in years. When she saw me, she froze, clearly terrified. "Judge Harrison," she whispered. "Karen," I said. "How is Emma doing?" "She is Dr. Emma Harrison Martinez now. She's a successful civil rights lawyer with 3 beautiful children and a wonderful life," I said. Karen started crying. "I'm glad she's okay. I think about what I did every day. It haunts me constantly. I can't escape it." "Good," I said. "It should haunt you. You tried to have an innocent child executed." "I know," Karen said. "I was wrong. I was cruel and evil. I destroyed my own life because of my hatred and cruelty." "Yes, you did," I said. "And you deserved every consequence you faced. I know you will never forgive me, but I need you to know I'm sorry," she said. "I was wrong about Emma. She was just a good kid, making Halloween decorations. I tried to destroy her life, and I hate myself for it every single day. I looked at this broken woman who had once wielded so much power and caused so much pain." "Karen, you're right about one thing," I said. "I will never forgive you. What you did was unforgivable." She nodded and walked away without another word. Today, Emma is one of the most respected civil rights lawyers in the country. She has argued cases before the Supreme Court and won landmark victories protecting children from abuse and harassment. The Karen Walsh case is taught in law schools as an example of how the justice system can protect victims and hold abusers accountable. Emma's Halloween decorations are now displayed in the Smithsonian Museum as part of an exhibit on freedom of expression and the First Amendment. The Pine Valley Estates HOA, under new leadership, became a model for how neighborhood associations should operate, helping residents instead of harassing them. Karen's story became a cautionary tale about the dangers of unchecked power and the importance of standing up to bullies. People sometimes ask me if Karen's punishment was too harsh for demanding a child's execution. My answer is always the same. She deliberately and maliciously tried to destroy a teenager's life. She demanded execution for creativity and fun. Karen abused her power as HOA president to terrorize families for years. She filed false police reports against innocent neighbors. She used fear and intimidation to control an entire community. But when she targeted my daughter and demanded her death, she crossed a line that could never be uncrossed. Every consequence she faced was a direct result of her own choices and actions. At Emma's law school graduation, she gave a speech that I will never forget. "When I was 16, a woman tried to have me executed for putting up Halloween decorations," Emma said. "She used her power to attack me because she thought I was powerless to fight back. She was wrong. That experience taught me that we must always stand up to bullies and abusers. We must protect those who cannot protect themselves. We must never let hatred and cruelty win over justice and compassion. Today, I dedicate my career to making sure no other child faces what I faced. Every kid deserves to be safe from adults who abuse their power. The audience gave her a standing ovation. Karen Walsh died alone in her small apartment at age 67. Her death was caused by heart failure brought on by years of stress, depression, and isolation. She had no friends, no family, and no one who cared about her. Her body wasn't discovered for a week. Only the building manager and a social worker attended her funeral. The obituary was just 2 lines. Karen Walsh, aged 67, died of heart failure. She was preceded in death by her reputation and legacy. Even in death, Karen was remembered only for the evil things she had tried to do to a child. Meanwhile, Emma continued her successful career helping children and families. She had 3 beautiful children who love Halloween and decorate their house every year without fear. Emma named her youngest daughter Hope because she believes there's always hope for justice and healing. Karen tried to destroy Emma's life, but instead, she made Emma stronger and more determined to help others. In the end, good triumphed over evil. Love conquered hate. Justice was served. That's exactly how it should be.